As an entrepreneur, creator, you probably dream about being constantly creative, inspired, playful, focused, and resourced, right? But somewhere along the way, you learn that it's not possible all the time, that you cannot control it, that creativity and flow state just comes and goes. The thing is, it's actually wrong. You can control it. In this video, I'm going to explain how you can begin to reprogram your body to access this creativity, this focus, and this flow again. And yes, it is a video about flow, the nervous system, the creativity, these states, but it's also a video about your sovereignty as a creator and also more fundamentally your sovereignty as a human being. So the first thing, let's talk about the problem because there is a problem behind. You probably think that it is your problem, that you want to be more creative, you want to access this state that we call flow, that you want to be inspired, that works come easily, that you can create content, that you can write and it comes very easily, it's playful, it's nice, but somewhere it's not that easy. And it can sound that it is your problem, but I think it's interesting to take a step back and think about your environment and the society you live in. So this video is going to be about nervous system, so that's the angle. And when we look at the modern society and how we consume content in what we can see in the news, television, journals, etc., you can very quickly notice that our nervous systems are completely overstimulated. Like it's very well known, a lot of people talk about it. But we can go one step further and say that our nervous systems, our physiology, our bodies are actually targeted. Because if you do what the majority of people do, if you consume what the majority of the people consume, if you have the same activities, if you are average, it means your nervous system is going to be targeted. It means that it's going to be very difficult to access the flow state, and I'm going to explain why. But the thing is, most people are functioning in survival in terms of physiology and nervous system. Most people, they can't access the creativity, the flow state, etc., because they are in survival, and the majority of the population is staying in survival, and it's getting worse and worse and worse with AI, with social media that is quite insane, with the amount of information we receive every day. And when we are in survival, basically we can't access our sovereignty and we can't access the flow, we can't access the creativity. So let's give you some examples of things that are problematic and that are actually just part of your environment. So I said social media, just for example, comparison, that's really bad for the physiology. The amount of information we receive, too much information. Our brains are not designed to process that, so it creates stress. The amount of notifications / emails / messages. The nervous system functions in a way that it constantly scans the environment to look for threats. And one part of this environment is communications. So when we receive tons of emails and notifications, actually our bodies, they don't understand that as cool, there is another email. They just understand that as this is a possible threat. So how many times per day do you receive possible threats? That's new. That's completely new. Another thing that is really not helpful is that we tend to sit all day. And if you just studies have shown that if you walk less than 30 minutes per day, it's going to put your body physiologically in a state of survival much more easily. So it's the whole environment that push people in survival. And I really don't like the idea that it's just a personal problem, it's really a societal problem. So what you're experiencing probably as a creator is actually something the majority of people experience. And if you are not more aware of why this happens, you're going to get stuck because the world, the society is not made for you to access your creativity and flow state and just this capacity to be inspired and intuitive and create. So why? How does that work? Let's talk about the nervous system. So your nervous system has different states. I'm going to talk about one state that is really important in this context. It's called the ventral vagal state. It is a state that is all about safety, connection, in the sense connection with other people, but also with yourself, creativity, flow. It's really, this state is I'm at ease, I can create, this is playful, this is like problems, they feel more like a challenge than a problem because you feel resourced. You are resourceful. So that's the ventral vagal state. Of course, that's a state you want to access as much as possible because once you enter the ventral vagal state, you can enter the flow state. That's just physiology. The flow state is simply ventral vagal, so this state of safety and connection and creativity and ease with a little bit of energy. So you have enough energy to act, but in the same time, you have this ventral vagal that we call a break because the energy is used for your own benefit and then doesn't become stress. The thing is, as I said, most people, they are not necessarily a lot in ventral vagal state. And that's not just your problem. That's really like a general problem at the moment. And so most people, their nervous systems are going to switch into fight, flight. Maybe you know this term. So just a lack of safety, basically, and the nervous system starts to look for a solution with fighting, or with flight, so trying to avoid the situation. Or if it's even more stressful, it can even go to shut down, so you feel completely numb and hopeless and depressed. And we tend to think that all of these states are part of our functionment and personality, but it's actually not the personality, it's the physiology behind. So the conclusion is that the flow state, the creativity, the inspiration, all of that is accessible when there is some ventral vagal state. So when there is some safety in your physiology. And maybe you see the connection now. For example, if you receive tons of emails every day, plus notifications on WhatsApp, plus on YouTube, plus the news that talk about AI taking jobs or whatever, that is kind of stressful for your brain. It doesn't matter if it's online or if it's in the room just in front of you. It's just urgency, it's just threat, and your nervous system keeps thinking, that's a big word because it's below the awareness, but keeps understanding a threat, another threat, another threat, another threat, another threat. Our ancestors, they didn't have to deal with all of that. So it is much more easily for us, for our generation, to get stuck in survival. Just if we just take the amount of notifications, emails, bad news, articles, videos, just that. And that's just a small portion. Okay, let's move on. There is also what we call feminine and masculine polarity, and you're going to understand why I talk about that. So masculine polarity, everyone has that. If you're a woman, you have masculine and feminine. If you're a man, you have masculine and feminine. That's just polarities. That's not about who you are. Masculine polarity is very interesting in business because it's structure, action, direction, clear goals, focus, like this is the goal, I'm going there. Feminine energy is actually also very useful in business because it's creativity, intuition, playfulness, and flow and inspiration. So we can understand the flow state or accessing the creativity and intuition. That's another framework as accessing the feminine energy. That's just another way to see it. Now, the thing that is interesting and that is really important to understand is that your feminine polarity is like the best image is like a pearl that is protected by a shell, and the shell is the masculine. So we could say that the masculine is the container for your feminine polarity. So in your own body, like let's say energetically, you have the masculine container for your feminine pearl. That creativity, intuition, playfulness, flow needs the masculine container. In other words, it needs safety. The masculine provides the container and the safety. The feminine emerges when there is enough safety, enough container provided by the masculine. So if in your life you struggle to access your creativity or your flow state or your inspiration, and everything feels just dry and just like forcing, the question is, do you have a masculine container? For example, for women entrepreneurs, you have all your YouTube videos, you have your content, you have your coaching, but there is no structure. The website is not well designed. The email sequences are not well designed. You didn't think about the prices. You didn't think about how much time this container, this coaching is going to last. There is no planning in terms of social media. You don't check the analytics. You lack the container. So yes, you have all the, oh God, I could create this video and this content. There is no container. And if there is no container, there is no safety. In terms of nervous system, maybe you see the parallel now. The feminine polarity needs the masculine container. The feminine, the intuition, understand feminine intuition flow, needs the security. Feminine is like an emergent property when there is enough safety. So if you can't access the ventral vagal state that we talked about before, then you can't access the feminine. So either you understand it with the container masculine or with more the nervous system and science, like this is ventral vagal state. I need safety in my physiology in order to access creativity. Two different ways to see the same problem. Okay. So now that we are here, I hope you understand the key takeaways. First, you are basically influenced by the society, by medias, by your environment. So a few things you can start to do in order to access your creativity and your flow state is to recreate the masculine container as much as you can. You can recreate in your business. For example, this is my structure. This is my email template. I send a newsletter every 2 weeks, planning, organization. That could be one thing. And then the creativity and the flow can emerge from the structure. And you can work also on your nervous system and try to access the ventral vagal, so the security, the connection as much as possible, because if you do, you will enter the flow state as well. That's just the way it is. It's that simple. There are a lot of techniques and tools to access this security, to rewire the way your nervous system works, but an easy way is also to just check what you can avoid. So avoid too many messages, avoid news, avoid too many videos, avoid too many bad news, too many things that feel like a threat to your nervous system. Avoid just not moving and spending the entire day at your desk. There are a lot of things you can avoid and add compassion to yourself, because we live in a world that is not nervous system friendly at all. It is the opposite. Our nervous systems are completely targeted. And most people, they're going to stay in survival most of their life. And when you're in survival, you can't express your potential. It might be okay if you're an employee. It might be okay if your goals are not that big. It's probably not okay if you want to build a business, or if you have a business, or if you're a creator. It doesn't work, because creation doesn't work with survival. And that's also the reason why we are usually functional as an employee, but the same wiring doesn't work for the same person the moment you start to create, because creation requires safety, it requires expansion, and survival doesn't provide that. So that's the big step a lot of entrepreneurs and creators have to do. It's really a big step. It's about reclaiming your nervous system or reclaiming your feminine polarity, if you want. That's another way to look at it. And behind it, it's also about reclaiming your sovereignty as a human being, that you deserve to feel at your best, because the flow state and the creativity and the inspiration, that's not something that happens sometimes. That's something that should be present in your life every day. That's your biology, your physiology I don't know what is the word, created for that. You are built for that. You are built for flow. You are built for creativity. But you live in an environment that just targets that. So it's really about reclaiming your physiology and your sovereignty. If this video talked to you, you can check this other video that is going to appear. Is about the growth mindset. So it's also about the flow state and accessing that, but the direction is a little bit like what I just said, that if you are in survival, stuck in survival, you can't really expand. You can't be creative. And it's very problematic when you are an entrepreneur and a creator, because you can't access the creation in survival. So this video is really about this. If that interests you, I'll let you click on the video. And in any case, thank you for watching the video. I hope it was useful for you, and I wish you a very nice day.